is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you are not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. Oh, this door is open. This door right here, this door is open to you. Is open for you. This door is open to you. This door is open. I'm talking about this door. This door is open. I said this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white or gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
Good morning and welcome to Unity this morning from near and far. Richard Shulman, our music director, is with me, Donna and Tia, and we'd like to welcome you from wherever you are. You're joining a community of people who are committed to personal awakening and global awakening, and I thank you for that. We're in for a real treat today. We have someone joining us, Greg Levoy. I say joining us, that's the beauty of virtually. We can join from wherever we are. But Greg has been here with us in person. Many of you know him. He's an author. He was a behavioral psychologist for USA Today for a number of years. He writes for Psychology Today. He's just an amazing individual. He actually lived in the Asheville area for a while. And he's the author of the book, Vital Signs and Callings. Well, Greg's going to share a message with us today that I think you're really going to enjoy. And this afternoon, starting at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, he's going to be offering a workshop. So I really encourage you to consider that if and as you resonate with his message. But first, we want to begin with an opening prayer this morning. As we turn our awareness within, we give thanks for a new day. We give thanks for a month of spring, for the realization of new life, for the gifts that are always unfolding in our life. Today we open our hearts to this message that, what often appears to be in the way is the way, that we may become the way. And so we give thanks for this time together in spirit. We are truly grateful, and so it is. Amen. As we begin today, we're going to step back in time and share an inspiring song with you. And then right after that, you're going to have the opportunity to experience Greg Levoy. Thank you.
I let it go. I release the thing I'm clinging to. I release what I'm holding on, and I'm falling into God's love. I let it be. There's nothing more for me to do, nothing more to say. I'm just falling into God's love. I feel the Spirit holding me, and it's lifting me on high. I ride on the power I can't see, and on the by grace I see, I see, I and I feel Spirit holding me, and it's lifting me on high. There I ride on the power I can't see, on the wings of love I fly.
Hello, Unity of the Blue Ridge folks. Greg Levoy here, coming to you from the West Coast. I'm delighted to be able to share some thoughts with you this morning. And at the end of a year that perhaps we thought would never end, though certainly in the continued midst of tumultuous times, but also opportune times. For example, this year has finally found me entering the brave new world of online teaching and presenting, which only took me 10 years and a plague to finally come around to doing. I love teaching, but I'm a high-touch, low-tech kind of a teacher, so I've always opted for the in-person teaching opportunities, but that, of course, is all abruptly changed, as most of our lives have abruptly changed. I'm essentially in the business of public gatherings, lectures, retreats, conferences, workshops, and such, and all of that has pretty much gone the way of the dodo bird this year. And if you yourself are a teacher of any kind, or a performer of any kind, or you work for a company whose doors have closed, you're also having to adapt, as I have, at least if we want to continue sharing our work with the world and perhaps making an income. And at the risk of being blunt, nature has a simple word for those who are unable or unwilling to adapt to change, and the word is extinct. And I think it goes as much for the individual as it does for the species. And the pandemic has clearly been calling on us to adapt, all right? And the regime change in Washington has been calling on other people to adapt. And adaptation is really just another way of saying to grow, I think. So maybe you've heard the name Abraham Maslow. So Maslow is the psychologist who gave us the hierarchy of needs pyramid. All right, at the bottom, food, clothing, and shelter. Above that, belonging to a tribe, etc. At the top is what he called self-actualization. Although right before he died, he actually added a new pinnacle to that pyramid. He called it self-transcendence. But this is what he said about the prior pinnacle. He said self-actualizing types, which are the people who I think tend to fulfill their potential, also tend to be the kind of people who make the growth choice over the fear choice, he said, routinely. Okay? But Joseph Campbell, who gave us the hero's journey and the bumper sticker, Follow Your Bliss, said that phase one of responding to a calling, which of course is the beginning of any hero's or heroine's journey, is running from it. All right, phase one of responding to a call is running from it. It's fear and resistance and self-doubt and maybe even anger at having your boat rocked, which of course callings specialize in. All right, though it's quite possible that the degree of resistance you have to whatever this pandemic year and these challenging times may be calling for from you is probably proportionate to the amount of power that's waiting to be unleashed when the no turns into a yes. Okay? But the pandemic, for instance, has been offering us, you'll probably agree, an AP class in boat rocking, a graduate level class in boat rocking, and in adaptation. And actually, it's some comfort to me that humans have proven themselves to be extremely good, ultimately, at adaptation. Okay? Now, a vaccine has finally shown up for the coronavirus that's put us on various kinds of lockdown in the past year, and we're about at the 1 year mark now. And it is based on the following wisdom, which is really the bedrock of the entire science of immunology, and that is that you introduce a little bit of chaos into the system to strengthen it. All right? You shake it up for the sake of helping it grow and evolve. Okay? And I think the chaos of this pandemic year has the potential to pretty much offer us the same deal. And I think it's interesting that in the central creation story in the Western canon, which is Genesis, chaos with a capital C is described as the condition of the earth before it was formed. All right, which I take to mean chaos precedes creation. Chaos precedes creation, and if you deny yourself the one, you're going to deny yourself the other. All right? Reminds me of something Red Fox once said. Remember Red Fox, comedian from the television show Sanford and Son? He said, heroes are not born, they're cornered, which I really do think is a very interesting observation. So one way to approach this pandemic year, and in fact one of the purposes that it can serve, is in helping us explore how our lives and how our work might grow and evolve as a result of it. You know, what the chaos in the coronavirus might be calling for from you, whether creatively or professionally or interpersonally or spiritually, of course, right? It's really an opportunity to take an inventory, you know, kind of step outside and look back in through the shop window at your life. How are you responding to this? What are you discovering about yourself? You know, where are growth and creation being evoked or provoked? Probably the case is, right? And I think it's useful to consider these questions in a personal context, not just a planetary context. So it's not so much what is the pandemic calling for from us, from humanity, but what is it calling for from you personally? And not to think of this from a philosophical point of view, like what's the ultimate purpose of this, or how might this be a reset for humanity, but how might it be a reset for you personally? All right, and thus to pose questions to yourself along the lines of what wants to emerge or awaken for you at this juncture? All right, what's trying to happen here? What's been given an unexpected entrance cue? What course corrections are being called for? Where are silver linings showing up? And of course, what do you want your new normal to look like once the pandemic is in the rearview mirror? Okay, so let me give you some examples, just a couple of examples of the kind of questions I've been asking of myself this year, and will in fact in the webinar this afternoon as well. Here's one. Science tells us that an asteroid ushered out the dinosaurs and gave the mammals underfoot, including our forebears, a shot at prominence. Okay, so using that as an analogy, when the dinosaurs, if you will, of the status quo have been sidelined, which they have for most of us this year, parts of us that are normally overshadowed are going to have a chance to come out into the light. Okay, for example, I've got a friend who owns a retail store, and he said that because he has no more customers coming through the store anymore, and for the past year by and large, though he's in the store Monday through Friday doing the online part of the business, because he doesn't have any customers coming through, he's discovered this is actually a great relief after all these years. And he's actually more of an introvert than he knew. And in fact, that his reputation and his identity as Mr. Social doesn't actually fit him anymore. So he's taking some time now to explore this more introverted side of himself. All right. So you might ask the question, what, if any, parts of yourself have you discovered in this past year? Whatever the events, whether it's the pandemic or the political upheaval or the conversations around race or any of that, what have you discovered or maybe rediscovered about yourself this year? Here's another question. Shakespeare wrote Macbeth, King Lear, and Antony and Cleopatra during a plague. Sir Isaac Newton discovered gravity and invented calculus while in quarantine for the bubonic plague. Okay, and at the risk of putting myself into the same sentence with Sir Isaac Newton and William Shakespeare, I myself have found that the pandemic has been one of the best things to happen to my writing in years, because it's given me a tremendous focus for my work and a lot of very juicy, compelling topics to sink my teeth into. All right, so not to diminish the very real misfortune that a lot of people have experienced at the hands of this pandemic year, it is possible that the sudden disruption in your daily rhythms, if not the isolation, might be a boon to your creativity, your resourcefulness, your inventiveness in ways that would not have happened otherwise. All right, so not saying you're going to necessarily discover any fundamental laws of the universe or write the next Macbeth, but you might just finish that novel that you've been daring and double daring yourself to write for ever. You might start a garden, you might take up the guitar, you might finally, come around to some of those home improvement projects you've been sticking on the back burner in deference to just the daily grind and just coping this year. All right. So you might ask the question, what bursts in creativity, however modest, have you experienced this year as a result of the events of this year? What bursts in creativity and resourcefulness have you seen come out of yourself? All right. And here's one more question. Some people think that the pandemic is just a biological event, right? Just an organism wanting to reproduce. There's no master plan here. There's no grand scheme of things. There's no nature sending us to our rooms to think about what we've done, which of course is one of the memes that's been making the rounds since this all started last year. For them, it's just predation. It's not punishment, all right? Then there are those who genuinely believe that this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. All right, this is the beginning of the great turning, the new consciousness, the long hoped for reset for humanity. And to be sure, there's lots of opportunities in all this for the spiritual optimists, okay? Lessons to be had in unity and interconnectedness and compassion and service and reaching across the proverbial aisle, and God knows non-attachment, okay? So to whatever degree you resonate to the second line of thinking, that there's perhaps greater meaning and purpose, maybe even a lesson to be had in all of this, the question might be posed, what do you imagine that lesson might be? Okay, again, not for humanity, but for you. If these events have unfolded to offer you a lesson, what do you imagine that lesson might be? Okay. Now, an interviewer once reportedly asked Albert Einstein, of all the questions you've posed into the mysteries of the universe, Mr. Einstein, what do you think is the most important question to ask? And Albert Einstein reportedly said, is the universe a friendly place or not? And I think how you answer that question is going to impact, if not determine, how your life unfolds, how you're going to interpret, if not respond, to the things that happen to you, including events like the pandemic or the political turmoil, all right? You've heard the expression, trust the universe, okay? Trust the universe. I've been thinking about that phrase a lot lately, as I do often during challenging periods in my own life. But I've been trying to drill down into it a bit more this time than usual, and I've been wondering, what exactly does that mean? What does it mean to trust the universe? What aspects of the universe are you trusting when you say you trust it? And is this a skill? Can you build it? Right? So this goes by a lot of different names. And frankly, I think it has a noble lineage. Let go and let God. Trust the process. Have faith. Don't push the river. And of course, thy will be done. All right, lots of ways of saying this, but the definition of trusting something, and I'm just going to the dictionary literally for this, the definition of trusting something is believing in its reliability. So right off the bat, there's a catch here, because the universe is certainly reliable. I mean, you know, the sun comes up, the sun goes down, gravity works, etc. But the universe is also reliably unpredictable. I'm thinking of chaos theory, or Murphy's law, or the law of entropy, or, if you don't mind me saying so, the famous shit that happens. So saying that you trust the universe has to include trusting that it is reliably chaotic and random, which are forces that clearly operate on affairs down here on the home planet. And we've certainly seen in extremis this year, certainly in the early part of this year. And they operate in your own individual life. So saying you trust the universe really has to mean trusting it to be itself, which is a combination of reliable and unreliable, and that you yourself, we ourselves, will act in pretty much a similar fashion, okay? Now that requires something that I once heard somebody describe as heroism redefined for the modern age, which is the ability to tolerate paradox, to hold two seemingly contrary ideas or impulses or energies or beliefs inside you at the same time and still retain the ability to function, if not hang on to your cookies and your marbles and your lunch, okay? So faith and fear, us and them, head and heart, reliable and unreliable, choose your duality, okay? And paradox, I think, requires that you bring these supposed opposites together to talk to one another. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings, said, it doesn't do you any good to leave a dragon out of your calculations if you live near him, all right? So trusting the universe and, finding some meaning and purpose in this particular manifestation of it, which is the events of the pandemic year, for instance, or for that matter, in any particular manifestation of the universe, might ultimately come down to staying in conversation with the universe. The trusting the universe may be a matter of staying in conversation and correspondence with it. And I think there's lots of ways of doing that. Dialoguing with the dragons in your life. Asking for dream guidance. Listening to your body. Honoring intuitions and synchronicities. All right? Spending time in the natural world. Meditation. Or for that matter, journaling. This is actually a beautiful tool for striking up a conversation with the bigger picture. I'm thinking of something that Ira Progoff once said. Progoff is like the grandfather of personal journaling. He created a system back in the 60s called the Intensive Journaling Process and wrote a book called At a Journal Workshop. He said the point of journaling is to go down deeply enough into your own well that you eventually hit the stream that's the source of all the wells, which I just think is ravishing all by itself, just as a thought. But it means that journaling is a perfect tool for being in conversation with the universe. And also just for feeling your way through events like this pandemic year or the political turmoil, all right? One of my own responses to the pandemic and to the financial anxiety that it's brought on is to rearrange my morning schedule to now include an act of trust, not just an abstract notion of it, all right? What I'm doing now as part of my morning routines is I'm playing 15 or 20 minutes of piano before coming in here into the office to work. And I'm doing that partly to demonstrate to myself that I can afford the time to do that. Okay, again, an act of trust, not just a high opinion I have of myself, okay? In fact, one of the diagnostics that I use anymore to know whether I'm trusting the universe is when I make counterintuitive decisions like that, all right? I respond to fear, which is really what propelled it all, with surrender rather than striving. Or I choose passion over security sometimes, or make the growth choice over the fear choice, like Maslow said. Or I try to allow things to happen rather than always trying to make them happen. Okay? Make money, make a living, make ends meet, make headway, make sense. Ultimately, trusting the universe might be less a practical issue, even a psychological issue, as much as I think it's a spiritual issue. It's not necessarily about striving, strategizing, creating new affirmations, behavior mod, all of which are great ideas. As much as I think it's like sort of sitting respectfully with things as they are, which I grant you is a high art. But sitting respectfully with things as they are, feeling what you feel without even needing to understand it unless do something about it, and having a certain forbearance for mystery out there in the universe as well as in here, okay? Certain tolerance for hanging out in the dangle, okay? So in closing, I would humbly encourage each one of us to answer Einstein's question. For yourself, answer Einstein's question. Is the universe a friendly place or not? And maybe exploring a little bit why you think it's either a friendly place or not. And I'll also mention that the webinar this afternoon is a very hands-on opportunity to explore what this whole tumultuous year, this pandemic year of ours, might be calling for from you. All right? and what you want to take forward with you from this year. So I hope you'll come. And I want to thank you very much for inviting me back and letting me share these thoughts with you this morning. And I'm going to sign off now, and blessings to each and all of you.
Thank you, Greg. You know, it just reminds me of that saying that what's in the way is the way, and that we're here to become the way. I'm always touched by some of the things that he says. So I want to take that and go into a little time, just a meditative prayer together. Lord, make me an instrument of your love. Lord, make me an instrument of your love. We sing, Lord, make me an instrument of your love, of your love, of your love, of your love. As we turn our awareness within this morning, we give thanks for what is calling us. That right now, what's going on in our life, in our world, it's not an accident. It doesn't have to remain the same, but it's calling something forth. It's calling something from within us. It's seeking to emote, to emerge, to express, to bring forth. We allow the power of Greg's words to touch us. As we are really mindful of what is calling us, what appears to be in the way, but it is the way. And how are we being called to be the way? Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Peace. And Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. In the midst of it, I say, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace, of your peace, of your peace, an instrument of peace. Be an instrument. Lord, make me an instrument of your light. I pray, Lord, make me an instrument of your light, of your light, of your light, of your light. You know, we're all here to be instruments. It's a beautiful song by Barry Dennis. And Richard, I want to thank you. I want to thank Greg again today, and he is going to be with us on Zoom starting at 1 o'clock. There's a 3-hour workshop. It's $30. There's the sign-up information is on our website, unityblueridge.org. So if you are feeling called, I invite you to be there today, 1 o'clock. We'll look forward to that. Also want to thank you for your steadfast commitment. We are looking forward to Easter and being able to gather a smaller group inside and a few people outside, but hey, we're getting there. So we'll have registration soon. Because it is a limited numbers, we'll need you to register in advance, and that will be opened up on our website pretty soon. So I want to thank you, send you off with a great song by Kat and our band, and have a blessed week and know that you are a blessing. Thank you.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up. Don't give up. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes. Don't you despair. Don't you despair. Look up ahead. Look up ahead. The path is there. The path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared. I know you're scared. And I'm scared too. And I'm scared too. But here I am. Here I am. Right next to you. Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead
Thank